Hello guys, wanted to make a video today to start something new and to invite you guys in it alongside me. Here lately I've been really thinking about dwelling on this quite a bit, and so this is my idea. I wrote my newsletter article on something that really had moved me, and it had to do with the fact that I've been thinking through the cross of Christ from a different perspective. You know, we really have talked a lot about Jesus' sacrifice and the pain that he went through and on our behalf, and rightly so. He did that. There's no way to turn the volume down on that at all. It needs to be thought about, but I haven't ever heard a lot about what the Father went through to endure that. The fact that he gave his son up to that, and then he had to witness it. Because, you know, one of my daily fears, you know, consistent fears, I'm not going to say I'm, you know, really struggling through this, horribly so, but I think all fathers and mothers can agree that, you know, one of our greatest fears is, you know, something happening to our children. And their suffering is our suffering, you know, and you guys know that. It's you know, something we think about quite a bit. What if this happens, or what if that happens? And we're trying to keep that from happening, and that's part of good parenting. But it can get out of hand, right? You can really start getting in your crawl, and you worrying so much, and so you limit their comings and goings in maybe ways you shouldn't. Maybe you become a helicopter parent, you know, so to speak. Or they're calling them a lawnmower parent nowadays, even worse. But anyway, we understand that. We don't want anything to happen to our kids. And so when I think about something really bad happening to them, I can kind of really put some meat and potatoes to that, some flesh and bone to it, and that's some awful pain. And so to actually see something happening to them, or something really happening to them, that's a lot of pain. And so, you know, if you turn the volume up on that, though, and really started thinking in some bad ways, it'd be awful to endure your child suffering at the hands of someone. You know, you think about a kidnapping, or you think about some of the horrific child abuse that's going on, sexual abuse or something like that. I mean, I can get myself riled up into, I know I could kill somebody. I mean, and I'm just being upright with you. If somebody got a hold of one of my kids and did certain things, I could kill. I mean, that's just the way it is. I could. Somebody could get me to that point. So it's a big deal. And I was just thinking from the Father's perspective about Jesus, that he submitted his son to horrific suffering at the hands of demented humans, because that's what the Roman soldiers who did that type of thing, they selected people who weren't quite right. You know, they didn't go pick out the nicest guy in the Roman legion to torture people. No, they picked out the psychotic ones who really didn't have any, in fact enjoyed it and thought of awful things to do to people. Those are the people who were told to scourge him, whip him, and to do all the other things to him. You know, they put the crown of thorns on him. God only knows what else they did that's not necessarily written in Scripture. Goes without saying, Jesus suffered horrifically, and the Father witnessed it all. Okay? Now, the only way I can wrap my mind around because God, I believe God the Father is a good Father. I mean, a perfectly good Father. It even says in Scripture, you fathers are evil and you give good things to your children. I'm a perfect Father, and I give good and perfect gifts. So, and I would agree with that. I'm like, I am evil, man. I'm manipulatable. I'm weak. I'm all kinds of stuff. You know I've got some issues. I'm certainly not perfect. And so God's making that, that's what he's saying. Look, I'm perfect. I'm a perfect Father. I do things right. And so for him to have submitted his son to this, there's got to be some extraordinarily good reasons for that. And we know what those are. Primarily salvation. It's the only way to add to the family. Jesus and him both agreed there at the end of the day. The human side of Jesus obviously was in a pickle and just submitted. But they both understood that it's going to take this sacrifice to add to the family. And so that's what had to take place. That's what they did. And so, but beyond that, which we know, I can't minimize the power in just that, in the saving faith and the capacity to add to the family. But what I've been thinking about is that God the Father did this. He submitted his Son to this. And there was not a plan B, because Jesus asked for plan B. And there wasn't one. So this had to take place. It was done. And what I believe is, this is some severe delayed gratification on part of the Father, because he had to endure that, and he's a good Father. Which meant that was very painful. And I don't know how God experiences pain. I don't understand all that stuff. We just know he is a God that has emotions. That's why we have them. And it was a price somehow, to him. But it was a price worth paying for the joy that he was going to get gratified for it in massive ways. And that's where you and I come in. The family has been enlarged, but see, it goes beyond that, because God the Father wants to he wants mature sons and daughters. He doesn't just want sons and daughters, he wants mature sons and daughters. And that's why we're on this planet, to grow in maturity in a relationship with him, so that we look just like Christ, so that God and Jesus is made famous and the Father is glorified. And we add to the family even more with a good representation of who he is. That's what we're here to get to do. So that has to do with growth and development. So having said all that, I believe that it is God's intention to fill us with his Spirit, to give us the energy, the motivation, the hope, the vision, the strength, the everything, if we'll give ourselves to him wholeheartedly. So here lately I've been looking at Ephesians 5 and 6 that has to do with the family, and the verses that these are commandments. Do this, right? Do this, men. Do this, women. Do this, children. He's speaking to the family and what it means. And so I've been saying to the Father, Father, I am lining up with you 100%. I choose to do it your way with all of my heart. I just ask you to fill me with your Spirit, give me directives, empower me to do so, and I'm going to face this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do my part as a male, as a husband, as a father, as a son of God. I'm just really dialed into that right now. So as we're talking about revival and things like that in our church that I believe is coming, it's like, what can I do towards that? There's lots of things we can do, but let's boil it down to the nuts and bolts of what is really needful. And I've really come down to this in Ephesians 5, the directive towards the men. Now we know strong male leadership is under attack in America. All of hell is against it, because if he can knock out strong male leadership, he can take everything, and that's what he's after. So men, this is really aimed at us, and this is why we got to get dead serious about showing the world a true representation of what a strong male is, what he looks like. So it's not just loving your wife and giving her warm and fuzzies all the time. That's a big part of it. We need to love, we need to be tender, generous, compassionate, sensitive in some areas to their wants and needs, but it also means strong leadership. Like, we know where we're going. We know what we're on the planet to do. We're doing it with all our heart. We're growing. We're definitely not perfect, but our wife can see growth and development as we're following those things out, because they don't want to be the attention. They don't want to be the center of attention. They want to join us in an adventure, and we need to be on that adventure. We need to be living that adventure out. We need to know why we're on the planet, and we need to be after that, doing it, and then have our wives alongside us to be that addition to us that completes it. It means God brings these two gifted people together to become one so that they can take it to another level of display. That's the beauty of marriage, and we're committed to it. And in the marriage, it can be a difficult thing. And I don't want to get off on all that. I wanted to keep this kind of along the center line today and begin this with a talk on this. Okay, so here's where we're at. I'm looking at Ephesians 5 and I'm saying, okay, it says, husbands, love your wives and lay down your life as Christ laid down his life for the church. And the purpose of that is he did that to make the church strong, and that it would be without spot or wrinkle, that it would bloom and blossom and be everything he meant for it to be. And then it goes down in and it says this is a sacred mystery, but it's really about Christ and the church. So in other words, us men loving our wives has some kind of, it's like a sacred mystery that is attached to the church that we're a part of. So I believe doing that, focusing on doing that well, loving our wives, laying our lives down for them as Christ loved the church, is a critical key to really seeing the church be unlocked, because it really begins there behind closed doors in that union, becoming one and learning how to lead and love and lay down our lives and create the union, because that is, we're the leaders in doing that. So here's what I'm proposing. You remember the movie Fireproof? It was back, it's pretty old now. Kirk Cameron, great movie. In that movie, it's about a marriage that's turned around, and in the movie, somebody gives him a book or something, or it's like a love dare is what it's called. It's like 40 days of actions of love towards the wife. And in the movie, he does it kind of half-heartedly, but he commits to doing it, and he does it, and it turns their marriage around. And it's a great movie. But anyway, sometimes when we're talking about loving our wives, sometimes we just need some just good, flat-out, good old practical advice, like what can I do? And we're so busy. There's so many things coming at us. Believe me, I know. So maybe getting some directives, some touch points on how to do that and kind of keep it in front of our faces would be helpful. So I got this Love Dare book. I had it in the past, and I gave it away to somebody that was really struggling in their marriage. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send out videos consistently about, and all they are, they're little daily little points about how to love your wife, and then there's a daily action each day, like do this. And so I'm committing to do this myself in my own marriage, and so I just thought, hey, why don't we just really try to get a bunch of us together, as many as will, and feel free to pass this video out, and I'll send it to whoever. But let's commit to do this together. Let's do it as a church of men. Let's watch our own marriages be transformed with consistent action as we're asking the Lord, Father, I know you paid an incredible price. You endured watching your son get beaten and suffer horrifically because you want to fill me with the spirit and power to do this job of loving my wife well. Because you want to see her blossomed and bloomed and led properly and loved. And you want me to be that type of a lover. Because it's an agape love at the end of the day, guys. We don't have it. It's going to come from the Lord in our walk with Him and our aligning ourselves with Him and how we are to walk and manifest ourselves in this world. And so I see nothing but win, win, win across this. And I'm asking you guys to commit to following through with the actions, and maybe we can get together and really talk it over and help hold each other accountable in some kind of way, or pray for one another. I think some marriages could be turned upside down, right side up, and I think our church is going to get an enormous boost towards the revival we all want to see. And Lord, and man, God only knows how bad we need it, all of us. So here's the initial video. I'll send more out as I make them, just one day at a time. But here's my encouragement. I think God is behind us like a mighty wind. He's ready to blow in this area. So I'm asking you, set your sails up, get the sails set, and get ready for the wind to blow, and let's see where God will take us. So God's behind us, and I'm here encouraging you. Some great things are about to happen. Bless you guys. Let's be the men that God died on the cross for us to be. The world is crying out for it. They need to see it. And you and I can be that by God's grace. Bless you today. Love you guys.